feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now.
Hi everyone, welcome. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're my Peterson subscribers, welcome back, guys. I'm so happy to have you again. So for today's video, we're going to focus on specifically the Ukraine tensions and between Russia and Ukraine and NATO. Particularly, this video may be broken up into two separate videos. It will be one main live that's going to be broken and split into two later on. So there's going to be a little bit of discrepancy. But please keep in mind, I will put in the description the link to this other video, which is today's live. If you're watching it live, it's going to be all in one. If you're watching this on replay, it will be two separate videos broken in half. Now, the reason for this is that I took some valuable feedback from all of you guys. If you have not already, please go to the community section and vote so I can be able to help improve the channel to make better content for you guys specifically. So I have received a lot of your feedback, and a lot of you said that a lot of my videos were too long. So I have decided to make the videos just as long as I normally do, but I will break them by editing and break them into two separate parts. And so in today's video, you can always check in the description about what I'll be covering. I will always let you guys know that this video that you're watching right now is part 1, and hello, part 2. And anyway, besides the point, let's jump into it. This is being live streamed on February 7, 2021 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here are some quick disclaimers on your screen right now, of course. If you have not already, check out part number 2. Or if you have not already and you're watching part number 2, definitely check out part number 1, as it will help you understand what today's video is all about. And here is as well as the last disclaimer on your screen. Let me say hello. Hi, Paula. Hi, Sarah. What's up, love? All right, so before we do begin today's video, there needs to be a valuable education and understand about what is the situation on the border of Ukraine. In order for us to read on it, I need to provide you with valuable background so that I am reading, you're not confused and not able to understand and comprehend what it is that I'm trying to tell you in today's reading. So let's take a look. Again, this source, it will be linked in the description below. It's by CNN. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you. 100,000 Russian troops have remained in the Ukraine border despite warning from the United States President Joe Biden and European leaders of serious consequences that follow if Putin pressed forward with an invasion. Lately, I have been feeling for a while now that potentially this could lead to a world war, which is why I jumped on today to do this once I saw it on Twitter. The U.S. intelligence findings in December estimates that Russia could begin a military offensive in Ukraine as early to 2022. So you can clearly tell this article was written way later before February or January. In late 2021, satellites photos reveal Russian hardware, including self-propelled guns, battle tanks, and infantry fighting vehicles on the move at a training ground roughly 186 miles, 300 kilometers from the border. After 3 rounds of diplomatic talk between Russia and the West aimed at de-escalating the crisis to produce a resolution, failed to produce a resolution, Russia has now deployed more than 127,000 troops near the Ukraine border, including some 21,000 air and sea personnel, transferred more Islanders operational tactic missiles to the border, and increased its intelligence activity against the country, which is Ukraine. Russia's defense military has said it's conducting regular winter military drills on a southern region, part of which borders Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukraine's eastern regions, those 2 regions there, bordering Russia, has been under the control of Russian-backed separatists since 2014. Russian forces are also present in the area referred to Ukraine by as temporary occupied territories, basically meaning that Russia is temporarily holding on to those territories. Very similar to the way that just say Canada was to invade the United States, they will hold the state of Maine and Washington for some random reason. But yet, those will just be temporary occupied territories as they have not won those land pieces, so therefore it's just temporary occupants. The front lines of the conflict have barely moved in 5 years. Russia also has forces numbering thousands or more at the massive naval base in Crimea, what they had took from the Ukrainian territory and annexed in 2014. And the source is CNN. So that is a little bit of a background story. I kind of took the most important parts and capitulated it to kind of give you an understanding about what is going on in the Ukrainian border. So now that you have the background, let's jump into the main part of today's video. Can you guys see me or hear me? I know that the Wi-Fi symbol keeps showing up on my screen, so I just want to make sure I'm not lagging in any way. Am I lagging? Can someone confirm? While we're waiting, the question that we're going to be asking today is, how are each of the major players feeling? United States, Ukraine, and Russia. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 3 cards, 1 card representing each country, and kind of see how they're feeling. Okay, I guess no one's going to tell me, so I guess we're going to hope that this is being recorded. All right, so how are each of the major players feeling? The United States? Okay, well, that's too much. How are the major players feeling, Spirit Angels? Tell me. How is the United States feeling with what's happening at the border? 1 card to represent how the United States is feeling. All right, so my spirit guides are keep telling me 2 cards, so we'll just do 2 cards per country. How is the United States feeling? Okay. All right, that's the United States. Putting the cards down a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see better. How is Ukraine feeling with what's happening on its border? 2 cards, please, Spirit. Okay, and how is Russia feeling with what's occurring on the Russian border? Of Ukraine. How is Russia feeling? All right, so let's take a look. All right, perfect. Thank you, Paula, for confirmation. All right, so what we're going to do here today is we have America. How is America feeling? Right, the first card that represents how America's feeling about what is occurring on the Ukrainian border, we have the Queen of Cups. What this really symbolizes here is symbolizes NATO, and it symbolizes the fact that the United Nations and everything that they have done up to this point is now a very strong testament to its willpower and its organization skills. So it feels like it's a testament of some sort. It's a testing phase and an experiment, and it's almost like someone is challenging the strength of the union, the strength of the power of collection of countries collected and coalesced around one organization, one agreement known as NATO and the United Nations. How would they fare against Russian aggression? So that is what this card represents. Now, the card that comes underneath it is the past, right? It is not resemblance of the past. The past had already occurred. This is kind of what's referring to Soviet Union during the Cold War. This is not what's occurring. But there's going to be some polarities between the fall of the Soviet Union and the fall of the United States. And that is what's going to scare a lot of people. But you cannot be in that mindset, because the energy here is, oh no, we're going to collapse, or oh no, Russia's going to collapse. Actually, neither is true. And the thing is here that what's going on here is that it's the energy, people are starting to panic, because a lot of them lack proper education and proper knowledge about what had occurred to the past, and what had occurred and what will occur. And a lot of people don't realize, they don't educate themselves on the past enough, so they don't have any education on what's happening in the future. And so what I see here in the United States here, and I see, is that people are very panicky. People are like running around, kind of screaming nuclear war, World War II, throwing out these random terminologies, because the panic of fear takes over. However, this could be a very good thing for the United States, as the United States is a very divided nation, and this could be one of those temporary moments that bring the country together under one unified nation. And so that could be a positive in this aspect, but it could also become a negative in the end. So there are some ups and downs in terms of the United States. As for the Ukraine, how the Ukraine country is feeling and the people overall, we have the Emperor's card. It feels like the country's birth since it started when it was freed in 1991, I believe, or 1992. when the Soviet Union fell. It feels like it had a very short run, and it feels like she wasn't able to fulfill her full potential, and that they were a very weak nation from the start. That they regret not joining NATO sooner before Russia started interfering in their affairs. So it does feel like in some way there's a sense of regret, but also honestly feeling like they haven't fulfilled their full potential and that the country has so much more to offer. We have here as well as we have the kind of people here in Ukraine kind of see this as a war-torn country. Like they feel like they can just not get away from the past. And it feels like they're going to end up seeing what they have gotten away from to end up falling back into the old ways of things. And by that, that means that they feel like they're being stuck and being pulled back into Soviet Russia. That they had no choice because they were not able to improve as much as they wanted to when they became a country. And because of that, the lack of support for the people and the loyalty that lies within Russia, people who live in Ukraine are loyal to this former country or mother country, so to speak. And what it feels like to me is that Ukraine, as the collective, wants to move forward as a country. But there are some people, the minority, who want to join back into Russia. And those people live kind of close on the border of Ukraine that borders Russia, and therefore they're going to lose a lot of land. And because of that, people in Ukraine still want to be in a system. They don't want to just be bundled up with other Russians. They want to have their own history. They want to make their own mark. That's what I feel for Ukraine. Now, as for Russia, we have the Three of Pentacles, right? How is Russia feeling when this is all occurring? Russia feels like Ukraine owes them. If they feel like as if Ukraine is theirs, like it was something that should have never left the country. It almost feels like when it happened, Vladimir Putin, before he became president of Russia, it feels like as if Vladimir Putin has in some way feel very strong energy that the Soviet Union shouldn't have let all these countries go free when it collapsed. Instead, it should have reformed its own country, its new organization. It feels like it was almost like he was trying to pick up the scraps of what happened in 1991. And it feels like we're revisiting that energy here, that this is him. It's almost like trauma. You cannot go to the fact that the country's left him. And it feels like what he's doing is he's trying to starve them, because you see the person with the cup here being poured out, and you see here with the letter. It almost feels like he's trying to starve them enough so economically that he's going to force them to end up joining back into Russia, even if it does not mean by militaristic means. This could be by people just giving up hope, so to speak. And so for the card that represents Russia here, that underneath it, the energy that also adds into clarification of the card here is we have the Two of Wands. If Russia takes Ukraine, they will lose their political respect worldwide. They will kind of lose their power, so to speak. So the question that remains for Russia is now acknowledging that, okay, so if we do take Ukraine, we lose a lot of power. We lose our standing in the United Nations. We lose our power in NATO. We lose our power in almost every aspect, including economically. I do feel like sanctions as well is a very big one, and it will decimate the country so much so that it can cause a revolution that will overthrow Putin. And I think he fears that more than having to take Ukraine. Ukraine is a problem that he wants to get fixed, but being removed from power is the problem that he does not want. And so that is really the energy right here, is the major powers of the United States, Ukraine, and Russia. Now, in order for us to get the full idea and understand the full picture, we are now going to do the same process, but with NATO, China, Belarus, France, and Germany as well. I feel like in order for us to get a full understanding about what is occurring and the major players and the minor players, what's happening. So let's take a look. I'm going to kind of get one card per each. Now, if this video goes over 30 minutes, you can obviously expect it's going to be broken into 2 separate videos. But if it doesn't, then it's fine. All right, so Spirit Singers will tell me about NATO. One card. How is NATO feeling about what is occurring in Ukraine? Okay. How is China feeling about what is occurring in Ukraine? Okay. How is Belarus feeling in Ukraine? How is Belarus feeling in Ukraine? If you guys don't know, Belarus is one of those former Soviet satellite states that ended up leaving the country when Soviet Union collapsed. However, they do indeed have a dictator in charge, which is pretty bad. Okay, so what else? How's France feeling about what's occurring? Okay. And how is Germany feeling? If you guys had not known already about Spacey, I'm thinking about getting rid of Spacey and sending him back. There was no reason for me to keep him. But I'll have you guys vote on that later. All right, anyway, let's join in. So in case you had a little bit of confusion or you just popped in, we have NATO, we have China, we have Belarus, we have France, and we have Germany. All right, so let's take a look at NATO. How is NATO feeling about what's occurring in Ukraine? Okay. NATO feels like their power is dwindling, right? NATO for a long time has come to the conclusion that they are starting to lose power, and that is because a lot of countries are leaving NATO, particularly because the people in the country want a referendum to remove themselves from the organization, or the fact that it's too pricey or too much of a problem that they no longer want to be a part of. That they feel like, why should my son go fight for an issue over in Ukraine when there is issues at home that needs to be addressed here? And so that's the motive here. So that's the problem. The problem is the people in those countries. Yes, it's a great idea, but it does not stick when problems are not solved at home. So the reason for this is a rebirth. What this is, again, like I said earlier in today's video, is a testament to NATO and the United Nations. It's a test of their strength, right? The reason for their founding and the reason for their creation was to fight off and keep away Soviet aggression right after World War II into the Cold War. And so that is why their creation is there. However, that is starting to be tested. The question is, can NATO survive? And that is what I'm seeing here. We have the death card reverses that in order for NATO to survive going forward, they kind of feel like, even though it's not a death, it's going to be a start of a turning point. It's going to be a turning point, either a turning point for the organization itself, or it's going to be a turning point just for the world as a whole, as a collective, that we enter this brand new era. Now, as for China, and China is a minor player here, we had Justice card here. China is watching very closely. And here's what I got from this card. What I got with China, even though it's going to be representing Russia, China fears that what is occurring in Ukraine can happen at their home on their border. Because remember, Mongolia is a country that was released by the Soviet Union. And China wants control of Mongolia because of the rich oil and natural resources. However, that would cause some sort of conflict with Russia if Russia tried to retake and reform the Soviet Union. And so this would kind of sour up the relationship between China and Russia. And at one point, Russia and China were known in a pact called the Star War Pact. Oh my God, it like runs in your tongue. But anyway, they were a part of that pact and they were part of a union, but both of them have very different ideology to what it means to be communist. And so there is a very conflicting energy, and I feel like China fears Russian aggression. Even though they sit on the side of Russia, they're really not. They're looking out for themselves. And that's why we have the Page of Cups here. Actually, I do see here, if the war was to break out, China would be very similar to the likely what we saw with Italy, where Italy joined the Axis side, and then once the government flipped or changes, they join the opposite party or the winning side. It feels like in this case, they will join the NATO side rather than Russia. And it's because of at-home aggression. They fear that Russia might be getting a little too close and getting too brave, that it could be very dangerous for China to engage in war with Russia directly. And so they want to prevent that before Russia gets too strong. Now, as for Belarus is a very dictatorial country right above Ukraine, which has a very strong relationship with Russia. We have here the Sun card. Belarus thinks this is amazing, that they almost feel like The best way to put this is they feel like Belarus is looking at Ukraine and what's going on to say, Daddy loves me. And by Daddy, I mean Putin. I almost feel like he, the owner, the dictator, thinks he's going to get some sort of land or some sort of money from this. Well, really, he's not going to get any recognition, but he thinks he's going to get something out of it. And so he thinks this is a really great thing, that one less thing they have to worry about. However, he thinks that he's going to make the country, Belarus, is going to be a world superpower. What Belarus wants to do is they want to create a world war, something that challenges the status quo. And that's not what's going to happen, but that's what this guy wants. That's what this dictator wants in Belarus. He wants a world war. Now, as for I think this is France, right? France. How is France feeling? France had the Six of Pentacles reversed. France feel like justice is on the right side. They feel like they can handle this diplomatically. And the reason why France feels this way, France feels like we learn from our past and let's do the right thing. Instead of giving them what we did with Hitler, where we gave appeasement, why don't we try to solve this diplomatically? And if we cannot, then I guess the next step will be militaristic or even, embargo. What it basically means, stop all money, oil, any sort of resources going to Russia, which will decimate the country economy. Now, as for we have here to clarify, we have the moon card. It feels like Macron, who is the prime minister of France, or I think the president, I'm not exactly sure, but either way, it does feel like in some way or some form that the moon card kind of points here. Is pointing to the fact of revelation, something being revealed, something is out and unknown. So it feels like in some way or some form that things are starting to arrive. The tension is starting to come afloat. And I feel like we're going to start to see the true colors of real leaders and what side they're really on. It's almost like they have to pick and choose. But France wants to get in the middle of that and say, well, why, instead of making people choose, why don't we try to do this more diplomatically instead of causing tension? So basically, the best way to put this is France is kind of like that little child in a family where they try to get him when they see their two parents fighting constantly. They just want peace, is what I'm seeing here. As for Germany, we have here, we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of Pentacles, reverse. Germany kind of sees this very similar to the way that they acted during the 1930s, 1940s. They see the polarities here. And we know the situation is not the same. People in Germany fear what is going on in Russia. And the reason for that is about people still remember, and there are still many people in Germany who remember the Berlin Wall. People in Germany remember having not seen their parents, their siblings, their loved ones, because they were locked over on the other side of the wall. And not many people were fortunate enough to ever say goodbye or even say hello. And it does feel like people in Germany have a very sour taste when it comes to Russia, and they fear being abused like that again. So the card that flipped over here, we have the Emperor card, and that card is reversed. And what this kind of tells me here is the fact that the way Germany's feeling is Germany does not want to repeat. They want to make sure that what had happened in the past does not happen again. They don't want the Iron Wall. Now, if you have remembered the Iron Wall, it was a wall, a temporary, imaginary wall, but ended up becoming a reality that ended up dividing the eastern half and the western half of Europe. And so that is why it's very significant that Germany vividly remembers and does not want to repeat. That is the thing that they feel the most. You're welcome, David. Okay, so the next question that we have here that we're going to ask is, what are the long-term effects of this ongoing conflict to 2014? Now, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. Well, not 5 minutes, a quick 30-second break. So I'm going to get some water, and I'm going to put up an ad. And I'm going to jump right back into the question. Stay with me. Have you ever wondered how you can submit a question or a video request? Well, I will show you in this commercial how you can do that. So you go to my channel, you click on any of my uploads or any recent videos that you may see, and you go to the description. As you can clearly see, I already clicked on a previous video. You scroll down and you click right here where it says submit your question, topic, or video request here. You can also add in links and information that you would like to add in. You can ask at least 10, and you can keep resubmitting as many as you would like. You'll click that link and it will take you to my website. And this is what my website looks like. You could book a reading with me. You can find my email. other information along with my YouTube channel. You will click submit your video request here, and you will click on that. And it will take you to a Google form where you guys can fill out and be able to put all your questions here. So thank you all for coming, and I'll just turn you right back to your content right now. Okay, so what is the long-term effect of this ongoing conflicts in 2014? Spirit Angel, tell me. What is the long-term effects? Okay. I love when they give me two cards. All right, so let's take a look at the long-term conflict. Long-term effects, excuse me. The card we have here is we have the Two of Pentacles. Okay. What this kind of shows me here, it kind of shows me a balance. It's a very fragile situation. I always feel like somebody, have you ever stepped on Legos and you're screaming and aching in pain because you step on a little thing of Legos? Even though it's so small, so minor, it has a tremendous amount of pain that it causes when you step on it. That is what I'm seeing here. You kind of see this guy and he's like, ow, ow, hot, 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 hot. Or like as if he's riding on a hot lava. Well, it kind of feels very similar. It feels like the situation in Ukraine is very fragile. And if you make the wrong choice, something bad can happen. Which is why we have here the First World War, we have World War II, and it's very possible we can experience a World War III. And, you know, Ukraine, it has the potential to become that. So that is why diplomatically we have to be very careful with how we approach Ukraine. Because Ukraine has the biggest potential. As for the card that clarified that flew on the right side, the long-term effect of it is economically and generation. We have here, we have the Ten of Pentacles, and this talks about the generation card, with generation after generation after generation. It almost feels like what is the long-term effects of this ongoing conflict in 2014 could stress for years. And most generations, believe it or not, are 20 years old. So most generations have 4 generations, which is an equivalent of 20 years. And so what this means is that the war potentially into long-term effect is 20 years. This could mean that it could affect many generations. It could mean that it could affect maybe that you would have been married somebody else, but they ended up dying in the Ukrainian war. Therefore, you never met your lover, and so now you have to reincarnate to meet your soulmate. Or you may not would have had a kid because the kid went over to Ukraine and fought the war because men can't seem to handle out their problems correctly, like they should. And so that is what I'm seeing here in the card here, that it's going to affect generations. It had a generational karma here. That's what this is. The generational karma is what's going on in Ukraine. Anybody who goes to Ukraine is a part of that karmic energy. Okay, so will the conflict be resolved through diplomatic means? Again, now if you are just hopping on, everything will be timestamped in the description below, or you can find this in the part 2 video, which I will include in the bottom of the description. Will the conflict be resolved through diplomatic means? Okay, we'll take it. We'll take these two. All right, so the card that represents is Three of Swords. Now, if you have been here since the beginning of the video, I talked about and gave you a little bit of educational background where we discussed that there has been 3 attempts to resolve this conflict. However, it has failed each time, which is why the heart comes in and they have the Three of Swords going right through it. What also follows as well is we have the Emperor card here. We have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have the Nine of Swords reversed. We have the Emperor card reversed. And we also have the Hermit upright. And so what this tells me here is, will this be resolved diplomatically? We have here with the current president in Russia. No. As long as Putin or Vladimir Putin is in Russia, he will not try to resolve this diplomatically. What he wants is some sort of appeasement. He does not want war. He wants appeasement. Basically, he wants to be given Ukraine freely. The way that the European powers like France and Britain gave up Poland, no, not Poland, Czechoslovakia, which is one of the nations of the Czechs, to Germany in 1930. He wants the same situation to happen, where the European powers said, no, we don't want war. So we'll just let it slide. We'll appease whatever you want as long as you just stay quiet. Kind of similar if you hear like a baby crying. In order to shut it up, you might just give it whatever the baby wants just to have some sense of quiet, temporary quiet, that's never going to last, right? You're setting a very bad precedent. We have the Hermit card. It's a very strong possibility that we end up having a very diplomatic resolution. Thank you, David. Thank you. It's very possible that we do end up having a very diplomatic resolution. However, it's going to take a lot of time and persistence to get there. It does feel like they're going to have to really try at it if they really want to be diplomatic. I do feel like there's potential here. It's just, do they want it bad enough? That's the question that remains. Do you want it to be resolved diplomatically? And so they have to be very persistent. They can't just hand Putin whatever he wants. You do that and you're going to end up in a very bad situation. So that is what I see for today's video. I do hope you guys liked today's video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, a like, and don't forget to hit the subscription button. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's video and today's interpretation. Other than that, thank you all for joining me, and you can rest assured that we're going to be okay, that we're going to be fine. I hope you like today's interpretation. Anyway, don't forget to share this video with other people. I love you and hope you have a very beautiful night. Thank you for tuning in. Bye, everybody.